How's it going, Yankee fans? What a game for this Yankee team against the Houston Astros. Walking it off. Aaron Judge, 2 walk-off hits in his last 4 games. I mean, what more can you ask from this guy? He is an MVP candidate. He is on his way to the best season of his career by a massive margin. And Houston gave us problems, right? This 4-game series was probably the toughest series the Yankees have had up to this point this season. And the Yankees battled, man. This was a resilient game, both the first one and the last one. Middle 2 games only put together 1 run. Had a lot of innings without any hits. They went 16 consecutive innings without having a hit. And then Giancarlo Stanton said, "Hold my beer. Let me get us back on the board." Solo shot in the 7th inning. Then DJ LeMahieu comes back, 2-run shot, ties the game. And then Michael King working his way out of that bases loaded jam in the 9th. I mean, that was, or the 10th rather. That's just a gorgeous, resilience efforts from this Yankee team. Everything kind of clicked toward the end of the contest. But Ryan, from your perspective, how awesome was this win? But how hard was it for the Yankees to actually get this victory in the first place?
So, I mean, like you mentioned, man, like the Astros pitching, the Yankees were in an absolutely terrible slump. And that isn't to say like, oh, they were in a slump and that's why they didn't hit. And, Astros pitching isn't that good. No, the Astros showed they could pitch, man. Like these are the 2 teams that come October, come, late into the season, these are the 2 teams that they're the Titans of the American League. I think that so far this season, they've both shown that they're the best of the American League. But the resiliency, as you mentioned, to go in there and don't let things continue to snowball. This team finally showed cracks against a very good opponent, and this would have definitely been the time where the Yankees crack, break, lose this game, lose this series, and it's, lowest point of the season so far, right? You're getting embarrassed. It feels terrible. And instead of rolling over and dying, this team comes back from the dead and hits a bunch of home runs and gets himself back into this game and then eventually wins it. Judge with another big walk-off hit, another walk-off home run. He just continues to prove that he is the captain. He's the best player on this team. He is making a great case for AL MVP. And then the bullpen, too. I mean, look, Miguel Castro struggled this year, and he went in through 2 fabulous innings against Houston. Wandy Peralta threw another fabulous inning. Clay Holmes, at his usual, just an automatic, clean, easy inning. And then Michael King, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, he had some trouble defensively in the top of the 10th. Trevino made a questionable throw throwing behind the runner instead of in front of the runner. Didn't juke him, didn't try to see if he was going to go break for third. He immediately threw to second, and that cost the Yankees an out, and that could have cost the Yankees a run. And King did not falter. He did not let that get to him. He settled down, and he did a job. And that's something that, you really can't teach that part of being a pitcher. We know that not everyone can close. Not everyone can be a high leverage guy. And King has evolved and really taken that next step. And it's amazing to see that this kid who in 2020 was unusable, walked everyone, garbage, in 2021 was a terrible starting pitcher, come into this, role as a reliever and just flourish and become more than whatever I could have imagined he could become. He hit 100 a couple of times, I believe, tonight or this afternoon. And, just a great effort. This team continues to show just don't quit.
Yeah, I mean, altogether, like I said, a resilient effort from this Yankee team, but a couple of cons, right? And of course, they couldn't really get the bats going early on. The starting pitching from the Astros was phenomenal this series. And Urquidy, he's not that great, right? The Yankees just couldn't hit him. He's not a great pitcher by any means. And I think, getting through the order 2nd, 3rd time around, we should have done better. But at the end of the day, I think like this stretch of games is just fatiguing for the entire squad. I think that you're kind of seeing that they're just not into it until like the last bits of the game. And even then, they're just like crawling through. But like these type of wins, that extra bit of effort in, like, the Yankees can turn it on whenever they feel like it. That's the thing about it. Like, you ever watch a soccer game? If you're a soccer fan, you ever see Lionel Messi, he just kind of runs around, does his thing, and then whenever he wants to turn it on, he becomes the best player of the planet, and it's not even close. That's the Yankees team this year. Whenever they want to be phenomenal, whenever they want to play at that level, they just turn it up, and suddenly resiliency, the effort, everything clicks, and bam, you're making moves. But I think like this fatigue is setting in. Just this stretch of games is really tough, and I think that All-Star break is going to be a nice little cushion for the Yankees and giving them some rest in a month here. So I'll ask you this: Gleyber Torres, tweaked his right ankle, sprained it, did not look good. He was helped off the field, helped into the dugout, and then down the stairs. ankle injuries I've had 2 high ankle sprains on one ankle, and it's not something that's easy to come back from. I don't know if it was a high or low ankle sprain, but it did not look good. He immediately went down, couldn't get back to third base. You can't play baseball on an ankle like that. And so he's going to need probably, if I was to guess, 2 weeks at least to get back from a situation like that. Like, ankles are no joke, especially if there's ligament damage. They're going to make sure he's healthy. So, what are your thoughts on that? Who do you replace him with? And is the infield kind of getting a little thin here?
So Boone said they dodged a bullet that wasn't anything more than a mild ankle sprain, but as you mentioned, ankle sprain, that is still not great. Like, that's not ideal. You can't play on that, as you mentioned. But this is kind of a test for the Yankees' depth. Thankfully, they have LeMay who can play second, and they have Donaldson at third and Rizzo at first. Marwin and Carpenter can get some spot starts here and there. And that's a fortunate thing of the Yankees' depth, where they don't have to play like Andrew Velasquez and Tyler Wade and hope that they go on some miracle run. They can play quality MLB players who play those positions and do so routinely and can be contributors at the plate and aren't going to have like a 500 OPS. That is a huge improvement from last year's team. Or having to trot out like Miguel Andujar at third base. Like, imagine if the Yankees had to try to trot, like, that would be a nightmare. And ultimately, the Yankees have the depth to make sure that they are fine until Gleyber gets back. They shouldn't rush him back. He's an important part of this team. He is someone that I'd rather have in October than over the next 2 weeks. I think that's pretty obvious. I think anyone would agree with that. And so I don't imagine the Yankees, I don't think it's a long-term injury, but I think the Yankees might just play it careful and go 10 days on the IL like they did with Stanton. Just 10-day IL, work him back pretty quick. And that might have to be it, and that could be great. Obviously, if he doesn't have to go on the IL, that's also phenomenal. But again, like you mentioned, ankle sprains, we don't really know how long that's going to take. They'll probably wait 2 or 3 days before they make a move if they have to. But we'll see. Definitely not going to play tomorrow. Absolutely no chance of him playing tomorrow. That would make no sense. But again, you have the infield depth to survive, so that's great.
Yeah, look, you're going to have to rely on Marwin Gonzalez, DJ, kind of supplementing that second base position a little bit. Obviously, you still got Josh Donaldson, but we'll see a lot more Marwin. And then IKF, man, that bobbled ball in the 10th inning, it just can't happen. Those big moments like that, you can't be missing those type of plays, especially against the Astros when the postseason comes around. Those plays are losses. Those mistakes result in losses, and those plays result in lost series and getting knocked out of the postseason. But it was good to see that the Yankees had some fierce competition this series, right? Like, we saw what their weaknesses are. The Yankees have been coasting by demolishing every single team. The Rays, Toronto, it doesn't matter. They've been doing such a good job. But this team, the Houston Astros, is like their kryptonite. Seeing them expose the Yankees' weaknesses was exactly what we needed, because now general manager Brian Cashman can go out and say, okay, this is what we have to do. This is where we're lacking. This is why the trade deadline is a big situation for us. And, there has been reports, and you spoke about this earlier today on the YouTube channel, about Luis Castillo. The Yankees have been, have spoken to the Reds about Luis Castillo, which is interesting considering they have one of the best starting rotations in baseball. But I would argue that they're some of their offensive pieces, right? I would argue that Joey Gallo, I don't trust him for anything at this point. His strikeout rate's at 40%. He's not hitting 40 homers this year. I don't trust Joey Gallo. And I think we need more bullpen pieces, right? If you can get a better supplement for Gallo and another good bullpen arm, this team will be really good. I think the starting pitching, yes, come the postseason, maybe you want someone with a little bit more experience. Maybe you want someone with like that high end, stuff. It could be Castillo, could be Frankie Montas. Like, who knows? We'll talk about them in the future, especially if things start to ramp up. But, if you had to pinpoint one weakness right now on this Yankee team, where would you address, and like, where would you allocate more resources?
So the bullpen, I think, it's not even just a matter of, the Yankee bullpen isn't good. It's just you always need relievers. Like, the Yankees always add a reliever at the deadline without fail. Like, they will always find someone to throw into that bullpen. And so you just always want to go out and grab an arm because you can, and it's pretty cheap to do so, and it's a pretty easy way to upgrade your team. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, the defense, man, it's just not what it should be, right? Like, for a defensive specialist, I'm not getting the defensive specialist vibes here. The stats back this up, man. I mean, you can't be making those errors in big time spots. It's not even like a one-time thing or a two-time. This happens a lot where he just cannot make the routine play. I think you can look at Miami. John Birdie and Joey Wendell both have played shortstop pretty extensively in their career and have done so at a decent level and provide much better offensive bats than Isaiah Kiner-Falefa do. So, the Marlins, if they continue to play poorly, they could be out of it. I imagine they're out of it. And I imagine that if one of those two become available, that would be a great fit for the Yankees. Both those guys, they get on base. They have good at bats. They play great defense. They have great base running skills. That'd be a big help there. I'd argue you'd want to really focus on getting specifically one of those two. Whereas in left field, you can kind of, you can throw out a lot of different options. Do you want to get Ian Happ? Andrew Benintendi, Ramon Laureano might be available from Oakland. You just put him in left field, right? Like there's so many different options you can go with at left field and right field. Whereas there's really not that many options at shortstop. So you really got to there's really that one or two guys that, you look for as an upgrade. I think the rotation might be a position they upgrade because they might want to manage innings. But again, I don't really see them paying the price for a starting pitcher with the other needs on the roster. But again, hey man, if they want to go for an FU move and just have, best 1-2 punch in baseball and they don't care about, giving up prospects, I'll take it, man. You won't hear me complaining. You will not hear me complaining. But this team definitely has a situation at the deadline where, there are marginal upgrades to be made, but they can kind of, go for a home run swing with one of their moves and just go out and get a player or a star type player that just elevates this team beyond just really, really, really good, which they already are. They're phenomenal, but they could just get so much better.
They can get so much better. And if they do, this Astros series, like next in the future, it could be different. Maybe the Yankees pull away. Maybe the Yankees aren't fighting back in every single game. The Astros won this series. You know what I mean? Like they played better than the Yankees in the Bronx at home. And that was tough to see. But, the Yankees next time around against the Astros could beat them up. So you never know. It could just be a down series. The Yankees have been so good this year. I'm not even going to go as far as to say that this is like their version of a cold streak. And for most teams, they would be like, God, we wish this was our bad. We wish that splitting a series with the Astros is our worst moment of the season. So that's how good the Yankees are, is that we're like, okay, what do we got to do to fix some things? And, we just split a series with one of the best teams in baseball and one that we might see in the postseason again. So, overall, I was very, very happy with this win. Aaron Judge continues to build a portfolio of walk-off situational hits. And he's become, the guy you want up to bat at any given moment. So really excited about this win, guys. This was an awesome one. And hopefully we can carry this over against a much worse team, the Oakland Athletics. We got Paul Blackburn on the mound for Oakland tomorrow with Jordan Montgomery. Should be a fun little matchup there. Blackburn's he's not the best pitcher in the world, but he's actually having a pretty damn good season. Doesn't give up many homers, which is the Yankees' MO. So, hopefully we can tag him a little bit there and take advantage of him in the Bronx at home and, riding this high once again with some rejuvenated energy. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in to Fireside Yankees for the post-game recap. As always, make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode.